Well, hello. Welcome to Crime and Court. Sorry, just checking my mic, making sure that I am good. My settings are okay. Sorry I'm late. I'm running late today. But I'm here. I may have to go and grab the dog because she is outside sunbathing. She's part of the reason I'm late because she didn't want to come in. My other dog is having digestive issues, so if he needs to go out, I gotta run. So I'm hoping that I don't have to do any of that at this point in time. We're going to get started. So this is actually the second part of testimony of trial 1 of Adnan Syed. And so this is sorry, let's rewind. So this is Maryland versus Adnan Syed and justice for Hae Min Lee. Hae Min Lee, as you can see, is pictured on the right side of your screen, and Adnan is in the blue prison jumpsuit behind bars, and he has been behind bars serving time since, when is our trial? Let me take us back to December of 1999 is when the trial started. So it took place from the 8th through the 15th in December. Her body was found. I feel like I'm not loud enough here. Her body was found. Her body was found in April. It was the springtime. She went missing in January of 1999, which also happens to be the year I graduated from high school, which I'm dating myself totally. But so that's why this case really, really strikes a note with me, because this is my generation. These are my people. This is when I was going to high school too. Sorry, needed a hydration break. Oh, and I forgot that I'm not on screen. Sorry about that. All right, so we are talking about, we've already been through opening statements. My mic wasn't working that day, so I had to re-record it, so I apologize for that, but we went back and I re-recorded the opening statements. And then you heard a few witnesses in part 1 of testimony begins. So now we are on part 2, testimony continues. So we are going to start off with this Salvatore Bianca, who is a BPD, Baltimore PD, Trace Analysis Unit Tech. So we're going to continue on with him. Or we're gonna go to the beginning of his testimony here. So where is it? The court says, okay, so the jury returns to the courtroom. Ms. Gutierrez is the defense counsel, and Mr. Urick is for the prosecution. The court means the judge. So let's go. Ms. Gutierrez says, "Excuse me, Judge, there's a juror missing." "Oh, yes, are we missing? Thank you." "Okay, Mr. Urick, with the court permission..." Oops, hold on. I'm going to pan. "With the court permission, I'll go to the next witness. The state at this time would call Sal Bianca to the stand." "Raise your hand, please," says the clerk. A witness produced on call of the state, having first been duly sworn, was examined and testified as follows. The clerk: "You may be seated. Please keep your voice up for the record. State your name." "My name is Salvatore John Bianca." "And your work address?" He provides it. "Baltimore Police Department." "If I may have the court..." So Mr. Urick is questioning the witness. "If I may have the court's indulgence for just a second." And this is direct examination. "Good afternoon, Mr. Bianca." "Good afternoon, sir. What do you do for the Baltimore City Police Force?" "I am currently a criminalist in the Trace Analysis Unit." Criminalist in the Trace Analysis Unit. That's a portion of the crime lab. It analyzes physical evidence that's been recovered from crime scenes, individuals, and objects. "And how long have you been doing that?" "I'm been doing the trace analysis work for the last 11 years, and I've been with the department 26 years, but the first 15 years being in the crime lab. Now, what is serology? I just got to keep an ear out for my dog in case she wants to come in. Serology is the study of biological fluids such as BLOOD or saliva or semen. Also included with that would be hairs and some skin. Question: and what, if any, training have you had in serology? Okay, I have a degree from the University of Maryland, Baltimore County in biology. Zoology falls within the field of biology. Since then, I have studied at graduate school at Towson State University in a master's program in biology. I worked 2 years in a hospital in a histology lab. I wonder what that is. Where's my phone? What is a histology lab? Out of curiosity. This is time to learn. We like to learn here. Histology. All right, medical histology is the microscopic study of tissues and organs through sectioning, staining, and examining those sections under a microscope. So that is what histology is. All right. So I worked 2 years in a hospital in a histology lab, which works with tissues, and assisted on autopsies during that period. Once I left, I came to work for the Baltimore Police Department. I received training as a local crime lab technician. Part of their training was the recognition and recovery and preliminary testing of fluids and biological materials that would fall under zoology. In 1980, along with other training, I had the opportunity to go to the FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia, and received training in crime scene processing, evidence collection, and some analysis. In 1988, I was promoted from the Trace Analysis Unit from the Mobile Crime Lab to the Trace Analysis Unit, and that started approximately a year and a half training in serology, and that given at the Baltimore Police Department by the Baltimore Police Department by my current supervisor. Aside from other instrumental courses that deal with that and working with peers, that would be the training that I had with that was specific to serology, biological fluids, and things of that nature. Mr. York continues, what, if any, experience on the job have you had in serology? He states, the last 7 years. Have you ever been qualified by your expertise in training in serology by any of the courts in Baltimore City? In this court in Baltimore City, I've also been accepted as an expert in Carroll County, Harford County, Cecil County, and I think that's all the counties that I've been accepted as an expert in. So he's an expert in many counties around that area. Mr. York continues, at this time, I would offer the witness for his expertise and training in the area of serology. Ms. Gutierrez says, we would certainly accept Mr. Bianca as an expert. Thank you very much. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the expert, Mr. Bianca, has been qualified and as agreed by the defense to be an expert. The rules of evidence don't usually permit witnesses to give their opinions. One exception is with experts who, by knowledge, training, skills, and expertise, have an additional layer of expertise, so we permit them to testify in terms of experience. You treat the expert's testimony along with all the other evidence as you consider it as a jury, and you give it as much weight that you think it's entitled to. All right. Mr. York says, if I may, the court's indulgence for just a second. I think they forgot a word there. Yes. Mr. Clerk, with your mark this is hard to read. Let me zoom in a little more. Sorry. Mr. Clerk, will you mark this for identification purposes as State's Exhibit number 26? States Exhibit 26 was marked for identification. Mr. York says, if I may approach the witness at this time, I'm going to show the witness what's been marked for identification purposes as States Exhibit 26, 27, and 28. They were marked for exhibits. Okay, Mr. Bianca, yes, I have powder-free one, so it won't mess anything up. Gloves, I'm assuming. Have you had a chance to examine them? I've examined 27, 28, and may I open 26? Yes, please. Before I rip this open, I just want to point out that there's an SV on here. That's my initials across the seal. Wait, what? How did we... Are we missing something? No. Okay. SV is his initials? I don't know. SV, but this is Bianca still. I just wanted to check. So it's Mr. Bianca still, but SV is SB. They wrote the... Okay. The court reporter wrote that. The person who transcribed this put V, but it should be B. SB are his initials. Okay. All right, so why would your initials be across the seal? He says, when I examine a piece of evidence property, I mark the item. I also, when I'm finished, close, staple the container and close it with evidence tape and write my initials on it. So if anybody else has to examine it, they know who the last person was who was in that bag. Question, okay, have you had a chance to examine the object? He says, yes, I have. What is the object? It's a striped shirt that I analyzed. Okay, I'm going to show you what's already in evidence as States Exhibit 13 and ask you to take a moment just to look at those photographs. Yes. Is that the same shirt that's depicted in these photographs? Yes. So let me see if I could actually pull up the... whatchamacallit? Where is it? I know we have the evidence. Where are the evidence? Like the pictures and stuff. I can't. All right. I swear there's photos. Physical evidence, photos here. Do we actually have numbered 13? What's 13? No, that's the book. So what did he say? Exhibit 13. That's not the exhibit numbers. Darn it. Okay. I guess we don't have like the correlating stuff. I'm sorry. I thought we did have like correlating. I'd have to look through and find it all. Here's the discovery. Do we have any disclosure, discovery? No. All right, forget it. I was hoping we could look at the pictures with the testimony, but I can't find it. All right, so would you offer at this time, States Exhibit 26, the shirt was recovered from the victim's car that young Lee identified. The court says, without objection, States 26 is admitted. Now, States Exhibit 27, what is that? Items 27 is a 2-page report that I wrote, and it's dated 8/31/99. And that report examines what? This examines this particular shirt and other items and were submitted to the trace analysis unit for analysis. And does that report present the findings of your examination of that shirt and the other items? Yes, it does. And then there is an additional report. We would offer States Exhibit 27, the report, without objection. It's admitted. Mr. York continues. If you would read that, what your examination showed of that shirt. Mr. Bianca says, okay, on this particular report, it's item 9, striped shirt, and the results of the examination are as follows. The shirt exhibited red stains on the back lower right and then through from the rear to the front of the shirt. These stains were determined to be human, BLOOD. A sample of these stains were retained for future possible analysis. The shirt was examined for semen and with negative results, and 2 hairs were recovered from the shirt. May the witness show the jury the shirt at this time? Yes. If you would please move to the front of the jury and hold it up. Okay, so he holds it up. First off, you saw me fumbling with a shirt, and what I was looking for was my initials, a little tag on the bottom. On every piece of evidence or item that I examine, I mark the item, if possible, myself with my initials in case it becomes separated from the bag. Well, that's a good way to process your evidence there. So the judge asks or says, if you show it to them, in sections, taking the alternates first. Okay. Sure. This is the front of the shirt, and if you would stop it where it points rather than racing it along the edge. Okay, sure. So they can focus on it. I want to show you the back, and that's the area that are outlined with the red dots. See those? That's the area where human BLOOD was found. Mr. Yerk asks, now besides that BLOOD, what, if anything else, can you see on that shirt? Mr. Bianca says, okay, there are a few other stains. With what's interesting is in the lower right front and on the back, and I'll turn around and show you. See these little bumps of tan material, and there's some on the back. You got to look around. The court interjects, did anybody get a chance to see on the jury? Or did everybody? And I guess they confirm, yes. Okay. So Miss Bianca continues, initially we looked at these and they gave every appearance of being possibly human nasal mucus, and I wrote that in my notes. And at the time I was concerned about the time and determining if it was necessary to look at, we could go back to it. Here it is on the back in the center, tan material, and as time was going by, the color of the BLOOD has changed. BLOOD starts out, it's red, and as time goes by, it dries, it becomes brown or browner, and if you leave it long enough, it turns black. Oh, I didn't know it would turn black. The stains on here are faded. When I looked at them, they were more red. The court says, can you return to the witness stand, please? Now, counsel. So I guess counsel was, Mr. York was standing over the witness. I hate when they do that. Anyways. Mr. York continues, before you put that away, what does mucus come from when they come from? What? The nose. Okay. So now, after you examined that for BLOOD, what, if anything, did you do with the shirt? I took a sample of the BLOOD. I'm sorry, I keep having to say that, but it's annoying algorithms in YouTube. All right, so in fact, of all the stains, he took all the stains and froze them so as to later time we could do, have them sent out for DNA analysis. And how did it come to have holes in it? I put those holes in it. I cut out portions of the stains and froze those so they would be available to us at a later time. And did you in fact request a DNA analysis? I did request it at the request of a homicide detective. And can you identify State's Exhibit 28? This is the chain of custody form that I personally filled out that would accompany the samples I took from the shirt, along with standard samples of the victim's BLOOD and the suspect's BLOOD. And this would go to the Maryland State Police Crime Lab for them to have and establish a chain of custody coming from me to them and then returning back to our lab. So whose sample of BLOOD were asked to be compared to the stain? Okay, Adnan Syed and Jay Wilds. How about the victims? Also the victim, Hae Lee. All right, and I am going to stop right here because I think that my dog wants to come in. She is scratching at the door, so I'm going to pause. I'll be right back. I am so sorry. All right, here we go. All right, sorry about that. I am back. I'm back. Where's my thing? Okay. Sorry about that. I gotta fix. Gotta get all situated again. And she was at the door. She wanted to come in. Sorry about that. All right. Whew. I think I'm out of breath. I ran. I apologize. All right. So we should be good for a little while now. All right, so Mr. Urick says that he would like to offer the state's Exhibit 28 the DNA request form. Without objection, the state's 28 is admitted. Mr. Urick continues questioning, or says, if I did move them, and I would move them in at this time, states 26 and 7. Okay, so he moves in a bunch of things. We need to read all that. Mr. Urick says, you can, okay, so he has a bag. Because he says, do you want this back in the bag? He says, you can return that to the bag if you would and hand it to the court at this time. At this time, pursuant to stipulation, we'd offer as State's Exhibit 4 2 fibers that were found at the time of this disinterment of the victim, one near the head, the other underneath the body, and then at State's Exhibit 5, Daniel Van Gelder's trace analysis report on those fibers. Court says, very good. Mr. Urick continues, Mr. Clerk, if you would mark these as Exhibit 5, blah, blah, blah. Okay. The court says, ladies and gentlemen, during the course of the trial, you will hear the word stipulation. That just means that the parties have agreed about certain things. One of the things they've agreed about is that 2 fibers, State's Exhibit 4, are admissible as evidence, and they have also agreed about a report, State's Exhibit 5, and that comes into evidence as well. So Mr. Urick continues, Mr. Bianco, who's Daniel Van Gelder? Daniel Van Gelder is a co-worker of mine. He's a criminalist too with the Baltimore Police Department. He's been there approximately 28 years. Mr. Urick says, at this time, I'd ask the State's Exhibit 5 to be published by having the witness read Mr. Van Gelder's conclusions and his analysis. So we're going to hear the report. So we're going to catch my breath. I ran down like 3 flights of stairs, which isn't good for me, but okay. So at this time, I'd ask for State's Exhibit to be published, blah, 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 and the conclusion. So the witness may publish it. If you could take a few seconds to look at the exhibit and familiarize yourself with it. The court says, as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, those agreements mean that we don't actually have to call the witnesses in. So that means we save some of your time this way by just having these agreements or these stipulations. And of course, I'm sure that you as well, as I appreciate when the attorneys are able to make these agreements among themselves. All right. Mr. Bianca says, okay. Have you had a chance to examine the report? Yes, I did. Very briefly, can you explain what Mr. Van Gelder was doing? Mr. Van Gelder was comparing some fibers that had been recovered from the victim's clothing and from the body bag and the grave site where the victim was found. His conclusions are as such. A thorough search of the jacket and boots reveal no fibers comparable to the victim's skirt fibers. Sorry, skirt. It says skirt. I don't know. All right, so the red fibers found on the victim's body and the tufted red fibers found on the victim's blouse have not been associated with each other with the multi-colored t-shirt of the weight-lifting glove. Wait, what? Does that sentence make sense? The red fibers found on the victim's body and the tufted red fibers found on the victim's blouse have not been associated each other with the multicolored t-shirt, I think, or the weightlifting glove. The weightlifting glove was found also. All right, so Mr. Urick says, thank you. If I may return the exhibit to the clerk at this time, if I may have the clerk's indulgence for just a second. Witness with the defense, cross. Okay, so now we're on cross-examination. Ms. Gutierrez comes up. She says, Mr. Bianca, You are as a trained criminologist and serologist able to determine if the substance is submitted to you in that. Why can I not read here? Mr. Bianca, you are, as a trained criminologist and serologist, able to determine if the substance is submitted to you is in fact semen, are you not? I don't know if I'm allowed to say that word on YouTube. Maybe I'll say something else. Mr. Bianca, that is correct. And there was no substance that you either discovered or was submitted directly to you, and you checked for the presence of semen. I checked it, and there was no semen. There are no semen or anything that was submitted to you. There was no semen found. That is correct. In regard to this case, that is correct. Okay, and you told us one of the things that serology does is that it can determine other biological elements, such as the presence of skin, or what is it called? Epithelial epithelial cells. Sure, I'll say that. Hope I don't have to say that again. All right. And again, you did not determine the existence of any skin or epithelial cells. My tongue does not want to pronounce that. Related to anybody in regard to anything that you examined. In reference to the report, item 11, yes. That had the epithelial cells on the, okay, what was 11? Item 11 was a liquor bottle. Okay. And that liquor bottle, to you, to your knowledge, it was just submitted to you as recovered from the scene where the body of the victim was discovered. Is that correct? Okay. It was recovered from the crime scene and at the time had been fingerprinted and examined, the lid and the cap, in the case that it may or may not be relevant. And I looked at the top, swabbed it, and found epithelial cells. I retained those, reported that in the report, and gave that information to detectives for them to do with their investigation would lead them. Anything else, and nothing else was ever submitted to you. Compare the cells that you recovered or notated on the liquor bottle. Was it? No, because that would be a request from, and let me just explain this if I may. Requests come to our lab from the detectives, from the prosecutors and defense attorneys interested investigators in the case, and it's not up to me to make the decision that the investigators, that is the investigator's decision. You decide what to do because it's submitted to you on the form, is it not? I receive information on a form requesting a particular type of analysis. And that form is a Baltimore City Police Department form, is it not? Yes, it is. And that form is attached to some piece of physical evidence, is it not? No, it can be sent to me in the mail. Okay, but it usually relates to a piece of physical evidence, does it not? That is true, because that's what you do. Is that correct? That's correct. As a result of any of your analysis and the analysis that you refer to the report that has been introduced into evidence that is dated on August 31st of this year, is it not? That is correct. She asks a lot of her questions, is it not? I remember listening to some audio of her, Miss Gutierrez asking her question, cross-examining people, and she had this like real harsh voice going, is it not? And it would drive me crazy. All right. Anyways, she's no longer with us. So I don't mean to speak ill of those who are no longer with us. I just meant that it was kind of a grating, like, is that not? Every time she would say it. It was kind of annoying, but anyways. So he says that is correct. Okay. And when you got that request, that's the date of your report, correct? No, the date of my report was August 31st, 1999. And sir, does that indicate the date that the evidence was forwarded to you? No, that is the date. That's the date of your report. So that means they were talking at the same time. So that means you would have concluded your analysis, correct? That's correct. Does it take you months to conclude your analysis once physical evidence is directed your way? Sometimes. Can you tell us when you received a request attached to some or to one of more pieces of evidence for you to analyze? Sure. As a criminalist, I can tell you today that the evidence came in when I first looked at it. Okay, could you tell us that date, sir? Sure. I'm just going to look at my notes if that's okay. March 10th was the first day of 1999, the first when that evidence was submitted to you that I had in my possession. Okay. And was there anything about the analysis that you concluded on the shirt that you've identified and shown the jury to determine the presence of human BLOOD and took from March 10th to August 31st? No, that was done that particular day. It was just done on the 31st? No, it was done March 10th. Okay, and is there anything about your analysis that took until the 31st of August to write that report? Was there any other information you were waiting on to determine that the substance on the shirt that you suspected to be BLOOD was in fact that substance? Yeah, I knew it was human BLOOD again at that particular time back in March. So he knew. Saying he knew. Okay. Now, at that particular time, you're referring to March of 99. That's correct. Is there anything that took time for your... Sorry, my second screen just flashed. I don't know where. Is there anything that took your time to conclude your analysis from March the 10th of 99 to August 31st? Correct. No, sir. It's just simple. It's just a simple question. Is there anything... Mr. Yerrick objects. Is there anything that you... She didn't even finish her question. Is there anything that your analysis... about your analysis that specifically took the time between March 10th, 1999 and August 31st? Was there anything that requires a yes or no answer? Bianca says, no, Mr. Bianca. Okay, but there is no yes or no answer to that question. Well, no, sir. My question only requires objection. Sustained. No dialogue between the witness and the lawyer. Please rephrase the question. Mr. Bianca, there was nothing in your analysis that required the time period from March 10th to August 31st, was there? For that particular item? To determine whether or not the substance that you suspected was human BLOOD was in fact human BLOOD. There was nothing in that part of the analysis in regard to that shirt which you just stood up and showed the jury that took the time from March 10th to the 31st, was there? That is correct. Okay, now Ms. Bianca, you also referred to and identified what has been marked as State's Exhibit 28, the request for DNA analysis from form, sir. Okay, could I see that form, please? The State's Exhibit witness. Does the jury still have State's 28? Yes. Would someone hand it back to the witness, please? Also, if you hold onto the exhibits or pass them back to the witness or the lawyers when they're near, so you don't lose them on the floor. Anything else back there? Okay, so they're passing back the exhibit. Mr. Bianca, I'm going to show you what's already been admitted as State's Exhibit 28. That is the form request for the laboratory examination and the chain of custody log, is it not? That is correct. Okay, and on the chain of custody log at the bottom of the page, your name is listed. That is correct. And your name is listed and dated as 9/24/99 at 4 p.m., is it not? That is correct. And that's the last time that you would have handled the BLOOD sample that you've described to us that you cut from the shirt and froze. I didn't handle it then. I had it in a package, and this is the date and time that I turned the package over to the Maryland State Police for analysis. On the form, Mr. Bianca, there is a part of a form, a block that says examination requested by, is there not? This is correct. And this examination that is of DNA RFIP is requested by yourself, is it not? Yes, it is. That is correct. Your name is in that blank, is it not? That is correct. And that request, and that what requested, what? And that which was requested was to take the frozen, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of errors in the transcripts. Plus, people are talking, so they don't always speak in perfect English, and it's hard to decipher what they're saying. All right, so, and that requested was to take the frozen BLOOD sample that you've described to us and submit it to a lab that was capable of comparing those frozen samples with other evidence. That sample was standard samples of the victim and suspects. Okay, and you said suspects with an S. Did you not? Yes. And that indicates more than one suspect, does it not? No, that means there's a victim sample and there's people to be tested against it. Okay, so you chose the word suspect when I asked you that question, did you not? Yes, and that's a force of habit? He says yes, and that's a force of habit. Question, and you used it in the plural, did you not? There's two names on there besides the victim. Okay, and those two names are Adnan Syed, correct? That is correct. And Jay Wild, is that correct? That is correct. And the form indicated what was submitted were BLOOD samples from both Adnan Syed and Jay Wild. Is that correct? That is correct. Together with a sample from the victim, Hae Lee. Correct. And those submitted together with the BLOOD sample from the shirt that you had excised and then froze from the shirt. Is that correct? That is correct. And that was submitted to a lab who could compare those samples with the frozen sample that you made to determine whose, if anyone's, BLOOD that was. Is that correct? That is correct. Okay. And you were correct. It's the proper procedure for you having identified that the substance that you froze was human BLOOD would be to pass it on to someone else to determine if further identification of the BLOOD could be made. Is it not? It's proper procedure for you to do that, is it not? That is once it's submitted to me to do so. Okay, and that form, sir, is there a date on the request itself? Here's the date. I took the samples there, and that's the date. And the date is 9/24/99, with a couple of months. Just a couple of months ago. That is correct. On the shirt, you indicated when you were showing it that there appears on the shirt red dots. Do you recall that? That is correct. Okay, those red dots are marks on the shirt is that correct? That is correct. They were not there on the shirt when it was submitted to you. That's correct. You made them to be able to identify from where you were extracting or noticing what appeared to you to be BLOOD before you tested to confirm that, in fact, it was BLOOD from a human. Correct. Is that correct? Okay. So, the red stains that you see, red that are circled, are the BLOOD stains, and some of the red marks on there are not BLOOD stains. In fact, they're more like perspiration, body fluid stains. There are often time stains that appear to be human BLOOD but are not. Question. That was the question. He says no. Mr. Urick, objection. Sustained if you'll let the witness answer the question before posing another question. Well, I imposed, Ms. Gutierrez says. The court says it will make the transcript a lot clearer this way. Thank you. Ms. Gutierrez says, thank you, Your Honor. For the record, he was not answering the question that I posed. He was trying to answer the question, Ms. Gutierrez. We'll have no debate between you and me about those objections. Yes, Your Honor. We'll just move on in hopes of getting the case tried this year. Is that correct? Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Bianca, what question are you answering? I am answering the question about the red dots, and they're made by a magic marker that I made. Now there are red dots on there for a reason, and the red dots are so I can see them in normal light. One of the tests that I did on the shirt was to see if there was, I don't know if I'm supposed to say, if I can say that, semen. I examined that later, and the way we test for that, the first test we do is to use a laser in a darkened room. Body fluids, some of our juices and fluids come out. Urine is one of them that will glow, but semen glows very strongly and intensely. Unfortunately, because of the decomposition of the body and wearing of the, because of the fluids from perspiration and other things, we test the samples in a darkened room with a laser, and anything that glows, you see those little circles. You see those dots in red. Oh, okay, so that makes sense. He made dots or red circles in on the shirt, which to identify the things that could only be seen with the fluorescent light or whatever. In the darkened room with a laser. Where was I? Okay, so then I come out into the normal light and look at those areas and test those areas because you can't see the glowing in normal light. There you go. So that's why you see red stains that are obviously BLOOD, and some of the red marks around those, and you should have used like a different color or something instead of red so it wasn't confusing. And then you see other areas that appear to be nothing circled in red dots. They are the areas that glowed under the laser light, and when I tested them, it turned out to be nothing. So it turned out not to be BLOOD and not to be semen. Not to be semen and not to be anything else that you reported on the report. Is that correct? That is correct. But those red dots were not there when the shirt was submitted to you. No, I placed them on there. And sir, other than whatever analysis you conducted and reported in your report dated 8/31/99, you've done nothing else with the evidence, have you? Other than send it forward for the DNA analysis? The shirt in particular, yes. Okay, thank you. Nothing further. Redirect? Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Redirect examination. Mr. Urick gets up. Did you ever get the results of that analysis back? Yes, I did. And what were they? The BLOOD, the human BLOOD, matched. Objection? Basis? That's not the person that did the results. The results are not in evidence. They cannot be admitted through this witness. Are the results in evidence? Asked the judge. I thought the report was in. Ms. Gutierrez says, not the DNA report. Mr. Urick says, no, just the request. Ms. Gutierrez says, only the request. Court says, then sustained. Mr. Urick says, I'm showing the defense an item I wish to approach the witness with. Court says, okay. Ms. Gutierrez says, I would object and ask to approach the bench. The court says, okay. Counsel approached the bench, and this is cool. Since this is the transcript written out later, we actually get the little sidebars, even though if you were sitting in court, you wouldn't. All right, so the court says, what is it? Ms. Gutierrez says, judge. The court says, no, what is this? Mr. Urick says, it is a rec sheet by a mobile unit technician. The court says, and what are you trying to elicit for? Mr. Urick says, a business record made by the police department in the ordinary course of business where the information on it was entered by a person who has information roughly at the time that the information is entered on it. The court says, what is it that you're trying to get it for? Mr. York says, on the second page. Court says, the page I had? Yeah, let's see. Shirt with suspected BLOOD. Okay. Ms. Gutierrez says, well, Judge, this is a rebuttal and has not been admitted as a business record. It can't be established as a business record through this witness. There's nothing that challenges anything that was brought out on cross regarding the shirt. The only thing that was asked about the shirt was connected to the red dots that certainly don't appear on that, and that's written by a person who can only characterize as suspected BLOOD. It's beyond the scope, and it would be improper to introduce or attempt to even ask this witness to look at it. The court says, what does it add? Mr. York says, it adds that the defense has been on notice since February 28th. The court says, no, what does it add? I mean, don't you have the BLOOD stains you've recovered from the shirt, and you have the shirt in place in the truck with the photo? In the trunk, maybe? Is there something extra that comes in from the exhibit? I believe so. What is it? The date that the defense has been on notice, and they've done absolutely nothing to request the analysis of the blood stain. They offered, no, but they have a burden. Sustained. Ms. Murphy would like to raise a point. She must be another defense counsel or prosecutor. Sorry. Ms. Murphy, Judge, I'm going to object to defense counsel calling my co-counsel an asshole at the trial table, and she did just a minute ago. Oh, wow. Okay. The court says, okay, I did not hear that. I know Ms. Gutierrez, although a pit bull on the pet leg. What? I don't think that's what they said. All right, so Mr. York says, we've gotten through 5 witnesses. We're rolling very quickly. We haven't the witness, but I'm not. Did I? No. I went the wrong way. Sorry. The court. Okay. I did not hear that. I know Ms. Gutierrez, although a pit bull on the pet leg of justice, at least in my experience, has been a courteous person. I'll assume for the moment that you misheard her, and I'll assume that all counsel will conduct themselves with decor and properly in trial, because that would be just as horrible a crisis to pay for all of you if you don't. So shall we do this and try to stay on schedule? Counsel returned to the trial tables, and the following ensued. Objection was sustained. Mr. York says, Mr. Bianca, are defense attorneys free to make request of you to analyze items? Objection. Overruled. Yes, in fact, I've received some personally. As of today, December 10th, 1999, has any request come from the defense to analyze any of these items? Objection. Overruled. No. No further questions. Recross examination. Ms. Gutierrez questions Bianca again. Do defense attorneys have any obligations to make any request to analyze any piece of evidence against their clients? Mr. Bianca. Objection. Overruled. I am not a lawyer. Mr. Bianca says, thank you. Good day, sir. Thank you very much. You're welcome. May counsel approach? Your Honor, yes. Counsel approached the bench, and the following ensued. The court. Marianne, can you get those bar stools here so counsel can get, Ms. Gutierrez says, with wheels. Your Honor, may the witness be excused? Yes. Good day, sir. Okay, here we are. Mr. York says, we've gotten through 5 witnesses. We're rolling very quickly. We haven't the witness, but I'm not certain how long it will take. Let's get this out of the witness, shall we? Counsel returned to the trial tables, and the following ensued. Mr. York says, if I may have the counsel's indulgence for just a second. The court says, yes. Mr. York says, if I may continue to have the court's indulgence for just a second. Yes, sir. State, call its next witness, please. And let me just take a look on how long that is. Hold on one second. My dog needs to go out, and he's been having digestive issues, so I think I'm just going to cut it here. So, because he's going to have to go out again. So I apologize. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye. If you've been impacted by a true crime and would like your story told in your own words, or if you or someone you know has been wrongfully convicted or accused of a crime, please write to crimeincourtchannel@gmail.com and tell us your real true crime encounters. Thanks for watching.